Welcome to Voice Rising with Kara Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Kara Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Kara Johnstad.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Voice Rising Show. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. June Leslie Wieder, a remarkable healer, chiropractor, and body worker with a deep connection to sound and healing. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Dr. Wieder has a rich background in chiropractic care, massage, and various forms of body work. What sets her apart is her unique ability to hear the spine sing, a gift she discovered as a child. And driven by this innate talent and her passion for music, she embarked on a journey to integrate sound and touch in the field of healing. Her experiences in the mental health field and her studies at the Swedish Institute of Massage and under the guidance of Dr. Milton Traeger shaped her holistic approach to wellness. With over 30 years of private practice, Dr. Wieder has touched countless lives, combining chiropractic, sound healing, massage, and the Traeger approach. She is also the author of 2 books, Song of the Spine and the Human Symphony, Healing with Sound and Vibration, and the innovator behind the bone toner and the harmonic resonator, which harmonizes the body's natural rhythms. So, Dr. June Leslie Wieder, I welcome you warmly to Voice Rising.
And thank you so much, Kara, for having me as a guest. And thank you for all the listeners out there taking your time from busy days.
Yes, we feel very privileged to be on this journey all together. I think many people sense that sound healing is really becoming something, ancient techniques, but it's weaving itself more and more into our lives. So you have been working with sound healing and vibrational therapy for many years. Your books, Song of the Spine, which I have sitting next to me, and the Human Symphony, Healing with Sound and Vibration, they've left a lasting impact on the field. So perhaps you can share with us a little bit of how you uncovered this profound link between sound and healing.
Okay. As a child, I just loved to sing. I loved to make joyful noises. And in my late teens, I entered an ashram where they were chanting, and there must have been thousands of individuals.
Nice.
And when all voices sounded as one, I was breathless. I was just so taken with how sound can penetrate so deeply, how sound can be shared universally to make us all one heart. And then when I went to, I studied Traeger with Dr. Milton Traeger. And in Traeger body work, it's really about getting in touch with the person's rhythmic resonance. So it's rocking a body, and you just really listen, and you just play with motion and movement as a child. As a child in wonderment. So I worked a lot with resonance then in motion. And then I went to chiropractic school. And I looked at the spine, and I saw it as a standing wave. I'll go into what a standing wave is after. But there's a primary curve, which is your thoracic curve, that has 12 vertebrae. And then the secondary curve, which is the cervical and lumbar vertebrae, which develop as we sit up and as we walk, and as, you know, those curves develop a little bit later. And that also has 12 vertebrae.
Right.
So, being a musician, I was wondering, do these 12 vertebrae in the primary curve correspond with an octave and scale?
Right, the 12 semitones.
The 12 semitones in an octave.
Make up the octave, right.
And so I was studying a course. I was involved with resonant repatterning at the time. And even though I was in chiropractic school, I was familiar with muscle testing. But in this course, there was an acupuncturist, Chloe, who was teaching the course. And through this course, I ordered a set of tuning forks. And we were also taught how to muscle test. So I was wondering, does each bone have a tone? And do these tones do they create harmonics in the spine and in the nervous system? If there is embedded harmonics, will these tones bring that out? So I had a set of tuning forks, but unfortunately, it was only within one range of 130.81 hertz to 233 hertz. So I systematically was muscle testing, which I'll go into what muscle testing is too, for those who don't know what muscle testing is. So I systematically muscle tested each of these 12 tuning forks on each of the vertebrae and found out that every vertebra responded very specifically to a tone. So I muscle tested at least 3,000 individuals, and I got a very consistent result.
Yeah, it is so fascinating. Even the lower spine. You were talking about the 12 and 12, but the lower spine was literally a pentatonic scale, if I remember correctly. So it's fast. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Yeah, continue. Yeah. It's such a beautiful work that you're doing.
Thank you. So I was wondering if that secondary curve recurred the same harmonics as your primary curve to set up a standing wave of harmonics within the spine to tune the nervous system. Right. So by toning a bone, one would tune the nervous system.
Right.
So, and I did have tuning forks that were above that frequency that I tested. Several tuning forks that went above the 233 hertz. And when I muscle tested, I found that it weakened people. So I said, okay, so this is the range the spine sings in. Whoops, I made a mistake. Whoops. A big whoops after my second book was published. During COVID, I had some time, and I commissioned an electronic engineer to create a new machine with many more frequencies. And so I have discovered that the Song of the Spine is actually one octave lower than I presented in my books. For example, the atlas that I had in my book, I had the Song of the Spine that resonates to 130 frequency, 130 hertz. I found that to be 64 hertz. So that was the fundamental frequency for Song of the Spine, was actually one octave lower. But what I did find was when I treated individuals that even working with the first harmonic or the first overtone, I would get the same result. I would get the same results.
It's interesting that you say 64, because 8 times 8 is 64. I mean, this is my crazy mind. 8 times 8 is 64, and we have 88 keys on the piano.
You know what? I didn't even think of that. Oh, my.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated. I as a composer, I have been sitting in front of the piano for many years, and it was only about 5 or 10 years ago that I literally started counting the keys and looking more at the patterning of the harmonics, right? So, I mean, I was always just, sitting down and playing and of course centered around the middle of the piano. And I remember when I first thought, 88 keys, and 8 plus 8 is 16, and 1 plus 6 is 7, and there are 7 notes in the major minor scale, and then you have the other 5 or pentatonic or whatever. But when you just said that 64, I was like, that's fascinating, because 8 times 8, and there are 88 keys. There are many more keys, and now they're making pianos with huge amounts of keys. But it's just, we always come back to 8 is also the number for infinity, right? So it's just, it's always...
A dolphin also has 88 teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. And the 12 comes back to the DNA, if I'm not mistaken. Right? You're talking about the 12 and the 12, and many people say that we are awakening the 24th strand of the
That's
DNA.
Amazing. We have 12 cranial nerves. We have 12 bones in each spinal curve. Yeah. We have 12 major meridians. Carbon 12 sustains life. Everything. It's really interesting. Yes.
It's fascinating. Yeah. So there you were doing this work, and now I do have to tell you that I work with, I don't know if you know the work of John White, and he has frequency machines that are kind of based on the Rife, the Rife technology. And the other day I looked at a program, and they do have a program based on your work, Dr. June Leslie Wieder.
They might want to change that.
They might want to change that. Exactly. They might want to change that. They might want to get in touch with you. I will mention it in some forum and see what beautiful people, and they're also doing a lot of work with healing with frequencies. Yeah. Wonderful. So share a little bit about bone toning. Is that...
Yes, I will in just one moment.
Okay, beautiful.
I just want a noteworthy, amazing individual, Renaissance woman, Cornelia Moore. It was just
beautiful.
It was an amazing connection. I have no sense of direction, but I was surfing the web, and usually I have clarity in what I'm looking for, but I wasn't really... I had a sense of what I was looking for.
Yes.
And I kept Googling, I kept surfing the web, and finally I came onto Cornelia's website.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wow, she has the frequencies. I'd love to connect with this woman to let her know that I've discovered the new frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and we connected, and she said, Dr. June, I have been toning Song of the Spine. She has had a lot of trauma, so from trauma she came to wholeness by toning Song of the Spine. But she said, Dr. June, I have been toning 1 octave lower. And I said, Cornelia, that is what I have discovered. So intuitively, she has been singing and toning and healing herself with Song of the Spine. And she has completely embodied my work.
Yes.
So I wanted to say I am honored and humbled to have my teacher, Cornelia Moore, for Song of the Spine.
Beautiful. Yes, I know her work well. She's a beautiful singer, and she's really, and I am not sure of the exact title of the new book, but she does have a new book out with her journey.
Sorry, the Song Within.
The Song Within.
Amazing book, The Song Within. Cornelia Moore.
Yeah, big shout out to Cornelia. Exactly, Cornelia Moore. Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you,
beautiful.
Cornelia.
Exactly.
And so bone toning.
Mm-hmm.
So really, bone toning is, I defined it as basically the application of specific frequencies to a vertebra. So in order to generate a sympathetic response that releases these embedded harmonics that lie within our spine. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that is a mouthful. So one can do it through toning and or I believe you created also a small machine.
Yes, I have, with a probe. So what I do when I apply, let me just step back for a second. So when I say the application of specific frequencies, I was using tuning forks for a period of time.
Yeah.
Because they're wonderful to get a sympathetic response. After I had determined what the frequencies were, then I would use a tuning fork with that specific frequency to bring back the home tone to that vertebra.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it would generate the sympathetic response, and then when I said releases the embedded harmonics. So when the spine is toned, what happens? So I use a tuning fork on a specific vertebra. I'd muscle test to make sure I was at the right spot, because we might think we're in the right place, but really tuning into that person's body, when I muscle test, I find I can even be a millimeter off for the optimal response. So that's why I muscle test. And it's usually about 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll muscle test again. So if they weaken on the muscle test, their body says, okay, that's enough stimulation after about 2 or 3 minutes. So sometimes I'll have the probe right directly on the bone, or sometimes where the spinal nerves exit, or on the transverse process of that bone. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't always have to be right on that bone, but I muscle test to find the best place.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people that don't know what muscle testing is, I mean, I know it from kinesiology.
Okay, so that's right. What I was next going to talk about. Okay. At first, originally, muscle testing was used to evaluate strength in polio patients. But we're using muscle tests basically not to access strength, but to assess the body's resonance and the body's wisdom. Mm-hmm. No one knows really why it works, but it does. Some people have talked about a holographic image of why muscle testing might work. Mm-hmm. But I'll go into just a little bit of a history. So it was Dr. Walther that actually wrote a comprehensive textbook on applied kinesiology. Mm-hmm. And it was defined as basically a functional neurology of how the nervous system controls the muscles and the bodily functions. And then a chiropractor, Dr. George Goodhart, Jr., he used muscle testing, but he wanted to uncover other dysfunctions. For example, like he wanted to evaluate nutritional states in patients or the states of different organs. So he called his technique applied kinesiology. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so because many different practitioners, many different professionals, they use this technique, and it gained widespread acceptance in various specialties because it was very simple to do. It was easily reproducible. It was cost efficient. And it provides immediate feedback about diagnosis and treatment. And for me, it was the most objective, subjective test. And one can make muscle testing more objective by setting up machines and measuring the force and all of that. But I use muscle testing. So there are many ways to muscle test. But usually I'll have a patient put their arm straight out to the side, mm-hmm. and I'll put 2 fingers, my second and third finger, slightly on the wrist, and apply very, very, very little pressure, as one might apply very little pressure to their eyeball. That's the kind of pressure you would put. And usually the practitioner wants to stay neutral. It's always good to have great intentions, but at the very least to stay neutral. And there are some things that can affect muscle testing, like drugs, dehydration, all sorts of things. So you want to make sure the person is well hydrated, both the practitioner and the person being tested. And so when I have their arm straight out and I put a little bit of pressure on their wrist, I am going to ask a question, and I usually start off very simple, and I have them state their name.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they state their name and I apply a little bit of pressure, I should feel that muscle completely lock in because that is their name.
Mm-hmm. It's the truth, right? So establishing
Exactly.
this baseline.
Basically, it's a yes, no, the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it as simple as possible. And then I have them state my name. Say your name is, or a different name.
Yeah.
And you'll find that their arm will either drop or it will start oscillating, moving up and down, up and down, up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to feel that muscle completely lock in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of just like a little standard test. And so if I do a muscle test and I get a weakness when they say their name, okay, let's start this over again. Or if I get a strength when I muscle test and they say somebody else's name, again, let's start this over.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people want to control. A lot of people would like to control this test. Right. And so you'll find them kind of fighting and fighting. So then I might go to a smaller muscle group.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll find that intuitively their body knows when you ask a question or you point to a place on their body, their arm will start lifting higher as to control it a little bit more so they can have more strength. It's very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fascinating, one even could say inner voice work, right? The intuition that our body has to share with us what the body needs to come back into harmony and alignment. I find it fascinating because I've had many sessions where I've been muscle tested, and to realize that the body has this innate wisdom that it wants to share, and that if you're just a tiny bit sensitive, and either you can do it with there are muscle testing possibilities that you can do alone, or you can, again, go to a wonderful body worker or practitioner like you are. And I find this so empowering that we do have the tools to keep ourselves in sound health and in harmony. It is mind-blowing, actually.
Yeah. It is amazing. The body knows how to correct itself, but sometimes it just needs that little bit of stimulation.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Right.
And so I used tuning forks for a very, very long period of time, probably for about 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that to be very... or should we go back to muscle testing? Did you want me to go back to muscle testing?
No. Share with our audience how you use the tuning forks and and I guess maybe certain results that you were realizing that you were getting, or which problems are people coming with that seem to work really well with this new way of working, right?
Okay. So yeah, for many years I used tuning forks, and I just found that they were pretty effective, but often they would drop on the body. I would drop them, and I'd have to constantly tap the fork to get a sustained vibration, because often I would need to vibrate the area for at least 2 or 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I dreamed of an electronic tuning fork.
Right.
And then it took about probably 7 years before I was actually at an Om chanting gathering when I met this very creative electronic engineer. And I told him of my dream because I had a prototype, an MP3 wave player that was my prototype of my bone toner.
Yeah.
But the amplitude, it just was not powerful enough. It wasn't even emitting the vibrations a tuning fork would. So at this Om chanting party, this gentleman, Rudy, said, "Oh, I can create what you want." And so overnight he did. Magic. Abracadabra. It was just
abracadabra. Exactly.
And so that was the first instrument that I had was the bone toner, which had the frequencies for the brain waves. I didn't have to figure that one out. It was all laid out for me. And then the frequencies for the song of the spine.
Yeah.
And Then after that, I created what was called the harmonic resonator. And using these machines was much more effective, much easier for me to hold the probe and apply it to the body. So in the harmonic resonator, I added the organs in, the frequencies for the organs, for the spinal cord, for the fascia, and for quite a few other areas.
Well, that's also probably your deep experience that all of our, for those people out there that don't realize that maybe that every organ or every, right, they all have a different frequency and a different rhythm.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is also mind-blowing.
Every cell has a song to sing. Every organ, every tissue, everything. And so, like, that's in my second book, I kind of, there was a continuation. So the spine was the first, and then I talk about all the other organs and how everything else is related.
Yeah.
And they all need to be in tune and sing together for this perfect harmony.
So who do you think is the conductor of this magical symphony?
Life. Universal.
The universe.
The breath of God. And our innate intelligence.
Yeah.
There's this wisdom that exists, and it's above and down below.
Yes.
In the heavens and in ourselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're walking conduits, walking beautiful channels, right? I mean, it is very fascinating just to see, for all of us, just to connect again with our body in this moment, and then to see that wave, that beautiful spinal column that we have. June, we're going to take a very short break, and we're going to be back. So for those of you out there, stay tuned, and there'll be more of us deep diving into sound healing and vibrational wellness.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
With happy clients all over the world, Kara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Kara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Kara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.karajohnstad.com and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for
summer break because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job
and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Voice Rising show, where we're exploring the fascinating world of sound therapy and healing with Dr. June Leslie Wieder. And we also want to extend our heartfelt thanks to our listeners. So if you're enjoying the show, consider subscribing and leaving a rating and some comments also for Dr. June. We always love to be in conversation. Your support helps us to get more inspiring guests onto the show for good, deep talk. So welcome back, Dr. June Leslie. Yes.
Thank you.
So not everybody lives close. Like if I'm now in Berlin, Germany, and I believe are you in California, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So not everybody lives close. So for those of us that are really curious, and we can't come to you for a session, but we do have all your books, and we just love the work. How do we incorporate the sound healing practices into our daily lives, or how do we, you talked about your own passion for singing and chanting and also the body work. So what would you suggest if somebody says, wow, this is so fascinating, I would love to do this every single day? What would the steps be?
I would have them contact Cornelia Moore.
Yay! Exactly. Very good.
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
She is totally embodied song of the spine. With her sub-bass singing, she is able to reach those deep tones. So that's one thing I would recommend. Mm-hmm. So getting onto a piano and taking 2 octaves below middle C, and to keep practicing those tones. That's
the really low tones down there. The very low ones. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Do you have a chanting practice every day, or is it more that you love going to workshops and retreats? Do you have a daily practice?
Yeah, I have a daily practice.
Beautiful.
Yeah. No, I haven't traveled very much because I do a lot of caregiving for my mom, so I haven't been able to travel at all.
Yeah.
To be honest. Now, I spoke about standing waves. I just wanted to briefly talk about that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I talk about the standing waves of the spine, and it's, a lot of people might not know what a standing wave is. So I just want to briefly say, if you have a fixed space and you have a wave and then a reflective wave, for example, if 2 people are holding a rope, and you just kind of put that little whip-like motion, and then you get a wave coming back. Mm-hmm. You'll have an interference pattern that creates the standing wave. And so back in 1787, Kolodny, he was known as the father of acoustic research because he did a lot of research on sound waves. And he put sand on a metal plate, and he drew a violin bow at right angles. And the result of that was standing waves, and he found that all the sand formed these beautiful symmetrical patterns.
Yeah.
And then 150 years later, Dr. Hans Jenning, who was a Renaissance man, Swiss scientist, musician, he was intrigued by Kolodny's work, and he experimented for about 14 or 15 years using powders, pastes, and spores and liquids. He photographed these shapes created by sound. He varied the amplitude and the frequency. He used the generator. He used loudspeakers. And he found that a lot of these patterns were created, and they were flowing, and they were dynamic. And they actually mimicked biological, geological, astrophysical events. And then when the sound was eliminated, they would go back, the material would go back to its original blob-like state. But what he concluded is that not only does sound move matter, but its shapes matter.
Yeah.
And that all natural phenomena were ultimately determined by the vibratory frequencies.
Right.
So,
yes. I think that's found now under cymatics for
yes, exactly.
Most
that's
people.
what I was going to say. Cymatics and Guy Manners, who was a British osteopath, but it just so fascinated me. I mean, it just blew me away, this work.
Yeah. I've had John Stewart Reed on the show a couple times, and he did a lot of studies in the pyramids, in the Great Pyramids, and putting sand on an area and then putting in certain frequencies, and you can literally see the spines of certain animals start to appear, and it is just fascinating and mind blowing. I mean, that is also a work which is just incredible, and how again sound not only gives shape to matter or form, but it is also, there's a lot of different studies with how sound affects then the blood and cleanses the blood and strengthens our immune system. And we say a sound mind, sound body, right? We intuitively know that. I always say we're shifting harm to harmony, right? So that would be also your take, because I know that you are deeply touched by the events of our world, like everybody is, with all the the war and violence, and anybody who is at all still breathing and has a heart. And I often wonder if we all, we're not around bonfires anymore singing together. We're not standing at the market square singing together. I do wonder what would happen if in these moments of great violence and war, if we all could just hold hands and stand. I know it sounds very crazy.
No.
But I would love it. Like if we just all, instead of all these protests where we're walking in silence or kind of screaming and fighting, if we would just go into deep harmony and create drum circles and song circles and start to sing and chant.
That would be heavenly. And that would just, I've wanted that all my life.
Yeah, well, then we can start a little voice revolution, a little mini, because people are like, Kara, you're crazy. That's like you want life to be a musical. And I said, I would love it if people would just walk into the bakery and say, could I have some bread or whatever, and then start singing their conversations, and that we as a world would realize what a powerful tool we have with sound and with our voice and with our body, right, and with rhythm. And instead of that, what's happening is that we're listening to a lot of sound, which is of not a high quality, and we're just bombarded with noise. Mm-hmm. And I think that does also affect our health. I don't know if you've seen if you've seen in your own practice, if people are really struggling out there.
What I've been finding is people's fatal brain waves have been knocked out due to the GPS, the satellites, for the cell phones, and everything else.
Yeah.
What I wanted to briefly talk about before I go into what I've been treating is the father of chiropractic, D.D. Palma, said chiropractic was founded on tone. Mm-hmm. And so I think he intuitively knew, and he felt that if there was any tension in the nervous system, like compression or inflammation of the spinal nerves, that it will alter the vibratory transmission of those nerves, causing dis-ease. So it was the tone of everything. Everything was the tone.
And we know that a tone is also at 1, right?
Exactly.
Because you just said dis-ease, which people forget. They say, disease, and it's like dis-ease. Yes. So how do we come back to ease? And a tone is at 1. It also, atonement is in there too. But I didn't realize that until I read your book, actually, that the chiropractic medicine is based on a tone, or toning, that on these harmonics. I hadn't realized that. I have had treatments before, but I was always thinking about it as just adjusting the spine, right?
Yeah. It's really, it's setting the nervous system into balance, the autonomic nervous system, the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, every part of the nervous system into balance.
Yeah.
And then, so, where I have had a lot of success with bone toning has been fibromyalgia, depression, chronic pain, acute pain, even chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Wow. Yeah.
For almost every condition, actually. Where I have not had success is Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, but I know what I need to do now for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And light needs to be added as well, because I think just sound and light would just augment one another. So that's going to be my next move.
your next exploration. I mean, they do have color puncture, right? Acupuncture through laser color. I know that work. And so you talk about in the Human Symphony, which is your latest book. It's good that you had some time, right, through COVID. It must have, for all of us out there, it was not an easy time, but it did give us sometimes some of us a time to slow down a tiny bit. And you managed to write a new book, which is phenomenal. And you mention in your book also, you talk about, future research in sound. So share with us about different possibilities. I mean, one is to add more light, or color, light, if I understand that correctly. What else is out there? Where's the world going with sound healing? Because I think it's really, that more and more people are becoming interested.
Right. I think the public is getting set up with medicine and drugs, and they want another alternative, and they're seeing that this is successful. Acupuncture, sound healing, and so I am just hoping that it will be utilized in every facility that people go in, like hospitals, or actually not even hospitals. Really should be just for emergency care as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But just centers for frequency healing. Just people can walk in and get light healing, work with sound, work with movement, and so centers all over for frequency healing.
Yeah, the Western medicine does a good job with, so if something's acute, right? But obviously we have so much chronic dis-ease that we need to look for alternatives. And sound is working. Frequency medicine, there are many, many stories, and I have my own stories. And we see also with Cornelia that she also has her stories that it does work. I mean, I'm not a doctor out there, so, but from my experience, it's stunning how quickly it can get the body back into balance, and and it's a very empowering journey because we're taking responsibility for our own journey and our own health. I mean, medications also have frequencies, so. But they have a lot of side effects, and you don't have side effects through chanting and toning and singing bowls and the bone toner, and you don't have any negative side effects, right? So you can explore deeply. And you have a lot of positive, exactly, a lot of positive. Do you use other instruments, or do you work mostly with the tuning forks and the bone toner, and maybe singing sound?
I have gongs. I have bells. I have a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, but like Cornelia Moore, if one can use their own breath, their own voice, that's the ultimate. Sometimes we need tools, and that's where my device comes. That comes in handy. By the way, all my devices now are obsolete, and I have a new device that was just created.
Oh, wonderful!
And then I'm going to work on having ultrasonic on it as well.
Oh, nice! Yeah. For everyone listening, I know your. Or why don't you share with everybody your homepage? I know the drwieder.com, which is WIEDER, and I think you have Song of the Spine as a homepage too, correct?
Yes, correct. And then the Human Symphony.
Ah, you did it where the books are. Very good. Exactly. So, so what do you said a little bit this vision of beautiful centers where people can just walk in and work with music and forks and tuning forks and maybe get chiropractic adjustments, and you're still doing the work, I'm sure, of the Milton Traeger, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have actually not had a Traeger session yet, but I've heard only good things about it. So if you could imagine our world in which direction it would be moving, how would that look for you?
A lot of chaos.
A lot of chaos.
It's going to be chaos before we come to a place of a real harmonious universe. So I have visions of where I want it to go, and I'm seeing more and more people that are wanting to be open and receptive to this work. Yes. And I'm just, but not enough yet. Not enough of the medical practitioners. Not enough people out there. So I'm hoping they open their eyes. So
yeah, I mean, they say we're approaching the new Chinese New Year, actually, and it's supposed to be very intense, and it does seem like, well, for me, I guess, from where I'm at and with my own work and my clients, it just seems like there is a massive amount of chaos, and yet there is, which I'm very grateful for, a lot of people that are open to new ways of living. I mean, I always say that when I came to Berlin, I'm originally from the States, the natural food stores were few and far between. The esoteric bookshops was maybe one in the whole city. That is a normal thing now, that you can go get a book on yoga, or you can go to book on breath work, or through the internet, like your work is also available. It must have been very hard to get 20 years ago. And so I do see that we are really, and also the work of Om Times, of course, and many, many wonderful healers. So I'm hopeful, actually, that the world is going in the right direction.
Yes.
Right. I'm hopeful, and I think with your work, share then with this new technology that you're bringing out. What will be different? You said your other two are obsolete, so what's gonna be different for us?
Well, with this third machine right now, it's a combination of set frequencies that I have on the harmonic resonator, and also frequencies that one can sort of turn and dial in, so they can do their own testing and their own research. Nice. And so, yeah.
So do you hook it up with tense pads, or it's hard for us to reach our spine? So if we don't have somebody in the room, do you use tense pads, or do you use?
No, I haven't done that yet. No.
Or do you hold on to? Oh, do you hear it? Is an audio signal that goes into the body?
Just a little bit, yes. Not much, but yes. And we're quieting that down as well. So that is the difficulty, like in the mid-back, that's some people cannot reach, most people cannot.
Right.
And so that's where we need a partner to help us.
Oh, that's good.
I can do most of my neck, I can do the upper back, I can do my lower back, but right around T6, T7, T8, I might need somebody else to have a hand there.
Well, that's where the community building work comes in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I actually know the right frequency machines that I've worked with, and the different harmonics machines, they use either, you can hold something in your hand, which puts the frequency through your body like a battery, or they use tense pads, either on the wrist and the inner leg, or, anywhere where you get a circuit running through your body. That's why I was curious, because then you can have somebody lovely in your vicinity that can support you, which is always the best, right? Or you can be independent And then you can also do a session by yourself. And of course, like Cornelia, like you said, she's working with her own practice of chanting and toning, and then you don't need to necessarily lengthen your arms to reach around the back, because it goes inside your body, right?
Correct. And I've worked with depression. I've had amazing success in just one treatment with depression, treating brain waves. And what I found is there's only one place on the skull that's going to receive the vibrations.
Wow.
And that's at the bald spot.
Wow.
The baby's second fontanelle. And I didn't discover this again until after I wrote my second book.
Maybe that's why is that why the Francis from Assisi had his little bald spot?
I don't know.
Who knows? No, that is revolutionary, because you have to. What are the new statistics? I think over 50% of people have experienced, depression at some point, or are chronically now suffering from depression. Is considered one of the most debilitating, diseases. I always, as a composer and a singer, I always want to, share that expression also is a great way to lift ourselves out. But it is fascinating that you say it's a certain spot, and it's only that spot that really works. I mean, that is, and it's the crown, right? The crown chakra then.
It's the crown, but you go the crown is just right at the very top, right? Very top. So if you slide down posteriorly from there, you'll feel a little indentation.
Yeah.
You come down from that spot, right at that indentation is where the vibrations are received when I work with brainwaves.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if there are studies of people that have had brain injury or head injuries, if they suffer more from depression because the cranial fluid or the bones have more tension.
I'm sure there's an effect of all of that. Absolutely. I'm sure.
So, are there any? Yeah. Do you want to? Are there any last words that you'd like to? Any last wishes for our listeners, or any words of wisdom that you'd like to?
Wisdom.
Yes, the words of wisdom.
Just breathe deeply. Bring the breath in. Bring light in. Bring love in. And share.
Bring love in. Bring light in. Always good. Always good.
And thank you. And gratitude for everything. Thank you.
Gratitude. Yeah, and maybe we make a few sounds out there in a beautiful way. Add some beautiful tones.
Some
to
joyful
this world.
noises to make some joyful noises every day.
Exactly. Laughter is maybe a very good medicine for it all. Well, I thank you, Dr. June Leslie Wieder, for sharing your profound insights. I'm very grateful to have gotten to know your work, and I actually did get to know the work through Cornelia Moore, who's here in Berlin, and all your gifts that you share with our world. And our listeners, if you want to go visit again Dr. June Leslie Wieder, you can go to her homepage, drwieder.com. You can go to where her books are, Song of the Spine. And what was the second one again? Your newest book?
The Human Symphony.
The humansymphony.com, correct? And if any of you want to access the shows, they're on every single streaming platform out there, or you can go to Om Times Radio Archives. My next guest will be Steve Farrell. He's co-founder, together with Neil Donald Walsh, of Humanity's Team, which is located in Colorado. And we need harmony out there. So let's keep on exploring sound healing, vibrational wellness, beautiful music, and bringing more beauty to our earth. Thank you so much, Dr. June. It's been really a pleasure.
Thank you.
Much love to you.
Much love.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.